You know, it's funny, I never believed any of the NASA conspiracy theories until very, very recently. I always thought it was nonsense that NASA cut the feed, and I now realize.
On October 30th, 2025, millions of people around the world tuned in to watch a strange interstellar visitor nicknamed Three-Eye Atlas as it swept past our sun. At first, it seemed like just another rare but routine space event, astronomers observing a distant traveler gliding through the inner solar system. But the excitement quickly turned into global confusion when the live stream showing the object suddenly froze without warning. Radio observatories reported detecting structured, repeating signals from the exact region where the object was located. Moments later, NASA locked down access to all incoming telemetry. Then one by one, observatories around the world quietly placed restricted access flags on their internal data networks. What had everyone just seen? Was Three-Eye Atlas just an interstellar rock wandering through space? Or did humanity witness something that agencies were not ready to explain? And more importantly, why is NASA still refusing to release the raw recordings? Before that day, almost no one outside the astronomy community had even heard the name Three-Eye Atlas. It appeared unexpectedly from deep space, far beyond the reach of our planets and comets, traveling at a speed that simply did not match the behavior of ordinary objects in our solar system. When scientists first detected it months earlier, they immediately noticed it wasn't behaving the way natural objects should. Most comets form glowing trails as they approach the sun, their icy surfaces vaporizing in the heat. But Three-Eye Atlas did not outgas. Instead, it remained unexpectedly crisp and sharply outlined, as if it were made of something resistant to solar radiation. To many scientists, this was the first sign that this object did not fit into any known category. Its initial discovery came from routine. The live chat instantly erupted with confusion. Thousands of viewers began posting messages, trying to understand what had just happened. Some claimed the video feed froze exactly at 11:47:12, while others insisted their stream was still moving normally. The strangest part was that everyone was supposedly watching the same broadcast, yet not everyone experienced the same thing. People started sharing screenshots and timestamps online, comparing what they saw. It quickly became clear that only certain streams had frozen, mostly amateur or public rebroadcast channels. Meanwhile, a handful of feeds continued playing without interruption. Viewers from the same city, even using the same internet provider, reported completely different experiences. The freeze lasted about 30 seconds. Then the affected streams were abruptly replaced with generic error messages like connection lost or data source unavailable. Viewers frantically switched browsers, devices and mirror streams trying to restore the feed. Some even jumped to VPNs to check if location mattered, but no consistent pattern emerged. The blackout seemed random, unpredictable, and strangely selective. Later, when people tried to check the official archived version of the event, things became even more confusing. NASA's re-uploaded footage showed no interruption at all, continuous, smooth coverage. But recordings uploaded by independent streamers clearly showed the freeze. This raised a deeply unsettling question. Were multiple versions of reality being recorded, or was something being edited retroactively? While the world argued over frozen video frames, something far more extraordinary was happening, quietly, behind the scenes. During the exact window when the visual feed glitched, radio observatories around the world detected a highly structured transmission coming from the same region of space where 3I Atlas was located. The first reports came from radio telescopes in Canada, followed by facilities across Europe. Astronomers monitoring their instruments watched a signal appear, sharp, patterned, and deliberate. This was not random noise. It repeated in consistent intervals, like a message encoded in timed pulses. Natural cosmic signals, such as pulsars, quasars, magnetars, and solar storms, have well-documented signatures that radio astronomers can identify instantly. This signal matched none of them. It wasn't chaotic. It was organized. Intentional radio observatories immediately ran interference filters to rule out communications satellites, military broadcasts, aircraft transmissions, and surface-level radio noise. The signal passed every filter. Its origin was undeniably off-world. The timing structure of the transmission displayed mathematical precision, each pulse separated by exact, repeating intervals. It was as if something or someone was sending a deliberate sequence. Within hours, amateur radio hobbyists began sharing partial recordings of the same event. Their equipment was less sensitive, but still strong enough to capture pieces of the signal. Operators in North America, Australia, and across Europe compared timestamps and frequency traces. Despite different antennas, receivers, and atmospheric conditions, all their recordings aligned. This was not a glitch, not a technical anomaly, not a coincidence. It was a real transmission detected across the planet, and it began the very moment the live stream went dark. When amateur radio operators began comparing their recordings, something astonishing happened. Despite using completely different antennas, receivers, and software setups, their captured waveforms were nearly identical. The frequency pulses matched. The timing matched. Even the subtle spectral shifts appeared in the same places. These shifts didn't look like the result of atmospheric interference or natural background noise. Instead, they felt intentional, as if embedded within the signal was a form of controlled modulation that did not correspond to any known spacecraft telemetry used by NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, CNSA, or any other space agency. Then came NASA's response, and it shocked the astronomy community. Within hours of the radio detection gaining attention, NASA released a short, unusually vague statement claiming the radio transmission was likely unconfirmed. Interference and attributing the live stream freezes to standard technical transmission issues, but something about that statement immediately felt wrong. Whenever NASA addresses scientific anomalies, they typically include supporting technical notes, observational summaries, or references to mission logs. This one had none of that. Just a few plain sentences and a dismissive tone, and then the statement vanished. NASA quietly removed it from their website and social accounts less than an hour after posting it. Only a handful of journalists, researchers, and dedicated space watchers managed to screenshot the original message in time. The speed of the retraction was highly unusual. NASA is known for slow, measured communication. Public statements often take days of review and interdepartmental coordination. Changes or corrections normally require even more time and formal internal approval. For a statement to appear and disappear so quickly suggested one of two possibilities. The statement was released before being cleared, or someone at a very high level ordered it to be removed immediately. What followed made the silence even louder. NASA invoked something called an Internal Data Protection Notice. This protocol is real and documented, but is used only under extreme circumstances, such as potential discovery of biological material from another world or events involving national security implications. Once activated, it automatically locks down access to raw telescope data, real-time observation streams, archival logs, and even internal research, correspondences, and that's exactly what happened. Public telescope feeds that had been providing near real-time Imagery were suddenly replaced with official placeholder screens containing NASA logos and generic data access restricted notices. These weren't technical error pages. These were policy-enforced blackout screens. University researchers and partner observatories found their login credentials revoked without warning. Scientists who had been working on unrelated projects discovered they could no longer access basic datasets that happened to cross-reference. 3i Atlas. The lockdown wasn't selective. It was broad and sweeping. This level of restriction is normally seen only when NASA is dealing with a potentially hazardous object on a collision trajectory, biological contamination scenario, or evidence of something extraterrestrial. In origin, but 3i Atlas was, publicly at least, being described as a natural interstellar object. So why invoke the highest classification protocols? Fortunately, NASA does not control every telescope on the planet, and what independent observatories began reporting next only made the situation more mysterious. Independent observatories in Chile and Japan continued watching 3i Atlas even after the official blackout began. Because they operated under different administrative systems, NASA's internal data locks couldn't silence them, and what they recorded only deepened the mystery. In Chile, astronomers began analyzing the object's reflectivity using well-established photometric methods, techniques that have been used for generations to determine the surface composition of comets and asteroids. But instead of returning the dark, muted reflection values expected from icy or rocky bodies, 3i Atlas reflected light far more intensely, as if its surface was smooth, polished, and metallic. Typically, objects like comets and asteroids reflect between 3% and 15% of the sunlight that hits them, but the readings from 3i Atlas came back significantly higher. So high, in fact, that the observatory team suspected their equipment was malfunctioning. They recalibrated their systems, ran diagnostic tests, and double-checked their instruments against known celestial bodies in the same region of the sky. Other objects returned exactly expected reflectivity values. Only 3i Atlas defied the models. Meanwhile, researchers using Japan's Subaru Observatory focused on its trajectory. They measured its position relative to background stars with extraordinary precision, accurate down to tiny fractions of a pixel. When they plotted these new coordinates against gravitational models that accounted for the Sun and major planets, the results did not align. 3i Atlas was not moving the way gravity alone would dictate. The deviations from its predicted path were subtle, but persistent. It seemed to be shifting course in small, controlled adjustments, as if something was guiding it. Natural objects can drift slightly due to outgassing, where jets of vapor act like miniature thrusters. But 3i Atlas showed no signs of outgassing. No tail, no vapor plume, no haze. Something else was altering its direction. Infrared observations added yet another layer. The thermal signature from the object showed temperatures lower than expected for something so close to the sun. Its surface appeared to be reflecting heat instead of absorbing it, consistent with highly reflective engineered materials, not natural space rock. Then came the Great Information Lockdown. As news of the anomaly spread quietly among universities and astronomy circles, something began happening to the scientific record itself. Data repositories that had been open for decades began closing. Archives that allowed free downloads were suddenly locked, moved behind administrative firewalls, or removed entirely. The European Space Agency shifted entire datasets into restricted review queues, claiming they needed extended calibration, even though they routinely released similar material within days. University observatories found their access credentials revoked. Graduate students discovered that data they had, downloaded just a week earlier, was now unreachable. Private observatories that usually shared discoveries openly either refused to comment or referred all questions to government science agencies. Some directors privately expressed frustration, hinting at pressure coming from funding authorities, but none would speak on record. This wasn't the usual slow, bureaucratic concealment that happens after public debate. This was swift, synchronized, and worldwide suppression before any debate could occur. Amateur astronomers, who had invested thousands of dollars in personal telescopes and software to contribute to citizen science networks, found themselves cut off completely. Their equipment was ready. Their data workflows were ready. But the source data had vanished behind walls. Freedom of Information Act requests were submitted to NASA and partner agencies. All received the same canned responses. Your request has been received and is under review. No releases followed. Not even for harmless requests like observation schedules or basic instrument logs. The silence extended across agencies, universities, and even privately owned research stations. Conference talks on 3I Atlas quietly disappeared from event schedules. Early research drafts vanished from preprint servers. Teams that had been publicly sharing preliminary findings went silent overnight. This wasn't one institution acting alone. This was coordinated weeks later, after the public's attention had drifted to new headlines. The mystery resurfaced. Faint signal appeared again. Radio. Receivers in the United States and Europe detected a weak, almost ghost-like transmission from a region of space just beyond Mars. The signal barely rose above the background cosmic noise. Most automated filters rejected it, but the human technicians watching the monitors recognized the pattern. The Q pulse intervals were the same as the original transmission. The direction of the signal matched the projected outbound trajectory of 3I Atlas after its solar flyby. If the object had continued on its calculated course, this was exactly where it should be. The signal was weaker, much weaker, suggesting one of two possibilities. The source was now very far away, or the transmitter was running out of power. Radio operators logged the event, cross-referenced timestamps, and began comparing fragments online. Once again, amateur and professional recordings lined up. Once again, the pattern was real, and once again, the official response was silence. NASA's public databases listed nothing unusual. European facilities cited ongoing data review. Private observatories refused to release logs. The story faded, not because it was resolved, but because access to information had been sealed. The question remains, what visited our solar system? And why did the world's most powerful scientific institutions refuse to let us see? Thanks for watching another episode. While you're still here, click the video on your screen for more content just like this.